by 47 points. Basically, this is all good news, but what it means is Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters are coming home. That's a good sign for the Harris-Walz team. It's also important to remember the race remains close. And a lot's happening on the campaign trail, too. Harrison-Walz wrapped up a bus tour through Southeast Georgia last week, and she is holding an event with President Biden tomorrow in Pennsylvania. Trump and Vance are also holding a handful of battleground state rallies. And Harris and Trump will debate, of course, in just over 1 week. Now, while the Trump team's television and digital advertising may be targeted on immigration and crime and pretty closely targeted on that, we shouldn't ignore that. It appears that Trump, Vance, and the rest of their MAGA crew are still really struggling to land an effective line of attack against Kamala Harris. I mean, think about it this way. For weeks, they've seized on the fact that Harris had yet to do a sit-down interview, saying she was hiding from the media, unwilling to take questions, which also wasn't true at all. But this week, Harrison-Walz sat down with CNN's Dana Bash to do just that.
One, I am so proud to have served as vice president to Joe Biden. And two, I am so proud to be running with Tim Walz for president of the United States and to bring America what I believe the American people deserve, which is a new way forward, and turn the page on the last decade of what I believe has been contrary to where the spirit of our country really lies.
But the last decade, of course, the last 3.5 years has been part of your administration.
I'm talking about an era that started about a decade ago, where there is some suggestion, warped I believe it to be, that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, instead of where I believe most Americans are, which is to believe that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you lift up. That's what's at stake as much as any other detail that we could discuss in this election.
So that's just one clip. We're going to show you a lot more clips, talk to them with some of my favorite political people. But just to give you a summary, basically Harris and her running mate, Tim Walz, fielded questions on past positions, on foreign policy, on the border, on what they would do on day one, who they want in their cabinet. I mean, they talked about a lot of things in this interview. That should settle this question, right? Everyone should be happy and kind of move on to the other important debates of the day? Of course not. Instead of dropping it, the target has simply been shifted. Now the attack isn't over whether or not Harris did an interview, but over whether or not she did it right. Many Trumpers are apparently angry that this was a joint interview with Harris and Walz. They're outraged. I mean, first of all, it's extremely common, you can see all the photos there, for candidates to do joint interviews. Just ask Barack Obama and Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine, or even Donald Trump himself. It's all even sillier when you compare these attacks with what Trump has been up to this week. I mean, first of all, he was re-indicted on charges related to his effort to subvert the last presidential election. His campaign was rebuked by the U.S. Army after an incident at Arlington National Cemetery earlier this week. He also reposted wildly crude remarks about Kamala Harris on social media and shared dozens of other dark, derogatory, disturbing posts this week. Posts that call for the jailing of people who have tried to hold him accountable, like Special Counsel Jack Smith and the lawmakers who investigated January 6th, that have AI images of his perceived enemies in orange jumpsuits, and that promote QAnon conspiracy theories, just to name a few. I mean, that's kind of the choice facing voters in just 65 days. You can take issue with the timing or logistics of a television interview by a ticket who answered a range of substantive policy questions. That can be the hill you want to die on. Or you can take issue with all of that. Maria Tusakumar is the president and CEO of Avoto Latino. Molly Jong-Fast is a special correspondent for Vanity Fair. Tim Miller is writer-at-large for The Bulwark. They're some of my favorite people to talk politics with, and they all join me now. Let me just start. Molly, I'm going to start with you. I mean, I want to play a bunch of parts of this interview because I think it's quite telling, especially with the comparison. So let's play what I'm going to tell you is my favorite part of the interview, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
What I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
I mean, I loved that. First of all, I loved how she said, Yeah, during the interview, first of all. But it's interesting because there's a debate coming up in just a week. She's going to be attacked by Donald Trump. Molly, what did you make of that response, or how to handle questions about these type of attacks?
Well, I thought that was the only way to respond to something like that, right? I mean, but why should she have to answer Trump's racist smear about her? I mean, that is the fundamental problem with a lot of these questions is the goal of an interview, and I do a lot of interviews, you do a lot of interviews, I think about them a lot. The goal of an interview is to get information from the person. So when she says, well, this, Donald Trump says this racist slur about you and questions your identity, okay, that's Donald Trump. It says more about Donald Trump than it does about her. I mean, my problem with this interview was that I thought that the Harris Walls ticket did actually really well. But if you want information from people, if you want policy, if you want to know what they would do, the way to do that is to ask real substantive questions and not just these sort of very Republican framed talking points, or to ask them to sort of defend themselves against things that aren't, that was just an attack on her. I mean, it wasn't a question. There's no question there. She is who she is. And it's pretty offensive. So that moment, I thought she dealt with that as well as anyone could deal with something like that. But imagine if someone asked me, like, are you Jewish? Like, I'm Jewish. That's it. Like, somebody says I'm not Jewish. That's okay, but I am.
Yeah, look, I agree with you that that's exactly how she should have responded to that. And what's interesting to me is that she's going to have to deal with this more and more as she does more interviews, as she also in direct attacks from Trump himself. Now, Tim, you've prepped Republican candidates for debates. What do you think of how she dealt with that answer, or what else stuck out to you about that interview?
Yeah, I thought that answer was really great and charming. And so I think that was definitely a highlight. I concur with you on that, Jen. I think that these interviews are challenging. So like this nitpick that I'm going to offer is like less about the nitpick, but more about looking forward to the debate. And that is that she was having to introduce herself, right? And she's having to answer for some of these things. So I thought she answered quite well, explaining her evolution on a range of policies and kind of answering for some of the positions she took in 2019 that are different from some of the positions she's taking now. And she seemed very well prepped for that. And she had to kind of explain that and explain her rationale about how she wants to build consensus and how to be effective, you have to build consensus. I liked that. But in a lot of these answers, what you didn't see is what you do prep candidates for, Jen, in these interviews, which is you answer that and then you pivot to why your opponent's terrible, right? And she didn't do as much of that. And I think maybe that was strategic. It was the first interview. She was focused on her own record and introducing herself to people. And I think that ahead of the debate is the big question, right? And, like for one example of that, in that clip, right before you played it, Dana said, you've never even met Trump before. The debate will be the first time. It might have been interesting to remind Dana why they've never met before.
Right.
It was because Donald Trump didn't show up to the peaceful transition of power because he was pouting like a child and flying home to his house at Mar-a-Lago and his emotional support cougars. And he didn't actually show up. He was the first president in history not to show up to the transition of power. And that was after he tried a violent coup on the Capitol. So that's why they've never met. So she doesn't have to be a pundit like me, but just as an example, I think that there's a lot of material to work with on Trump. And going into the debate, you got to refine answering your question and then pivoting to, but what about this guy?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I do agree with you that I think strategically she probably wanted to kind of base her own record and answer some of those questions, but the counterpunching, that's a key part of the debate. Let's just turn here a little bit to the where the race stands now, Maria, because there's been I listed some of the interesting polling that I think is interesting. I think it's Democrats coming back home. When you look at Latino voters, when you look at black voters, when you look at young voters, one of the things that jumped out to me in that USA Today poll is that Harris is leading low-income voters, 58 to 35%. You've been out there on the trail, you've been talking to people. What stuck out to you either about that poll or kind of what you're seeing out there right now coming into Labor Day and the path ahead?
So what we found really interesting was right before the convention, she was at 60%. Independents were at 7%, and Trump was at 29%. So she is taking away not just from the independents, but she's taking from Trump. And that was before the bump. And this was a poll that Voto Latino conducted with 2,000 voters in battleground states. in Georgia, in North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada. What we're seeing since then is even more appetite for her because she's talking to them in a way that makes sense. This, we haven't covered it enough, but the fact that she's giving them a platform and saying, we're going to build more affordable housing, we're going to talk about rent controls all the way down the line, that is what we have found that young voters, Black and Latino, 18 to 29, housing is their #1 issue. Normally, you think that housing is something that you struggle in your 30s and your 40s, but the fact that she's hitting them exactly where they are speaks to not only who she is, right? Like this idea that she is a woman of color, that she has an immigrant experience, that she can talk to them in code, but then she's also translating it and meeting them where they are with their bread and butter issues that's impacting them.
Yeah, it's such an interesting point because we've long talked about this presidential race not being about policy issues between Harris and Trump.
Right.
But there are some issues. I mean, she was talking about rural health care on this bus tour. You're talking about economic issues that a lot of Latino voters are responding to. How do you explain this kind of big swing among Latino voters in this poll?
So what we found, again, when Biden was on top of the ticket, was not that the people were defecting to the Republican Party, but more that they were interested in third party. And it was women, Latino women, that were defecting to third party because they were aligned with the Democratic issues, but they just felt that they needed something fresh. And that Biden, while great policy, they didn't know his policy. What we found most interesting, and this is why her defining herself on this first interview last night was so important, was that people loved her, but they don't know who she is. So she's a blank slate. That's the best thing for an opportunity for her because unlike Hillary, who had 30 years of baggage because the right defined her, she has an opportunity now to say, this is what I stand for. And we haven't talked about it enough, but it also makes it harder for the far right and for foreign agents to define her on TikTok and on social media platforms because she's speaking to them directly.
That's a key point. You got to fill the space. We have to sneak in a very quick break. Everyone's staying with me. We'll talk more about the interview, the politics of the moment, what happens during the sprint after we take a quick break. Also, we'll show you a clip of Trump talking about 6-week abortion bans, and we'll talk about that too.
What Tractor Supply customers experience is personalized service made possible by T-Mobile for Business. With T-Mobile's reliable 5G business internet, employees get the information they need instantly. This is how business goes further with T-Mobile for Business.
Chase really knows how to put the heart in your local community. See what I did there? Hey, Jackie. Evan, my guy. You helping him with savings, right? I wish I had somebody like Evan when I started. Somebody just got their first debit card. Ice cream on you? Ooh, tacos. I got you. Wait, hold on. Don't you owe me money? What? Your money is a part of your community, so your bank should be too. Like Chase.
Here's to getting better with age.
Cheers to beating these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost High Protein. Complete nutrition you need and the flavor you love. So here's to now. Now available Boost Max.
The love between a newborn elephant and her mother is unlike any other. It's an unbreakable, lifelong bond. But when her loving mother is cruelly killed to fuel the illegal trade, her calf is left all alone, and she may not survive. WWF is working around the clock to prevent tragedies like these by protecting threatened wildlife around the world and their habitats. And we desperately need your help. Visit WWFjoin.org, scan the code, or call now. For just $12 a month, you can symbolically adopt an elephant calf. You'll support WWF's efforts to save some of the world's most endangered species and their habitats. Do it in the next 5 minutes, and we'll send you this adoption kit with this adorable plush elephant. They need your help today. Go online, call, or scan now.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify.
Looking for a way to stretch the dollar? With Insurify, you can cut your car insurance bill in half. Scroll through dozens of prices and tap to switch online. That's it. No phone calls and no wasted time. Go to Insurify and save today.
At SimpliSafe, we build advanced security sensors and cameras for your whole home, powered by 24/7 professional monitoring and Fast Protect technology, exclusively from SimpliSafe for faster police response. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
The best feeling is when we take off our bras. It's not true. Honeylove bras are the most comfortable bras I've ever worn. No underwire. There is some boning on the sides, which make it super comfortable and supportive. No back fat. Never. It's fun. It's beautiful. It's supportive.
Free 30-day returns. Shop now at honeylove.com.
My gosh, how good is that? I love how light it feels. It's not heavy. It's not cakey. I feel like I'm not wearing any makeup at all. Most liquid foundations usually sit in the fine lines and pores. It makes them more visible and it feels so heavy on the skin. This baked powder foundation has velvety and creamy texture with light to medium long-lasting coverage. I don't see any other reason to try any other makeup foundation ever.
I could work out, I could dance, I could do anything in this bra. Honeylove bras are the most comfortable bras I've ever worn. No underwire. There is some boning on the sides, which make it super comfortable and supportive. No back fat. Never. It's fun, it's beautiful, it's supportive.
Free 30-day returns. Shop now at honeylove.com.
Now let's go to Minnesota's Democratic Governor Tim Walz.
These guys are just weird. Robber barons like J.D. Vance and Donald Trump gutted the Midwest.
Your first reaction to the choice of Tim Walz?
Democrats were deflated. Now, game is on.
I think this race is going to get even more interesting.
Morning Joe, weekdays from 6 to 10 on MSNBC. MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, Saturday, September 7th in Brooklyn, New York. Join your favorite MSNBC hosts at our premier live audience event to break down all that's at stake in this historic election. Visit msnbc.com/democracy 2024 to buy your tickets today.
Okay, ready for a story in 3 parts? Part 1. Donald Trump says a 6-week abortion ban is too short.
In Florida, the state that you are a resident of, there's an abortion-related amendment on the ballot to overturn the 6-week ban in Florida. How are you going to vote on that?
Well, I think the 6-week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks.
Which brings us to part 2. The anti-abortion movement completely freaks out about those comments, which then brings us to part 3.
So I think 6 weeks, you need more time than 6 weeks. I've disagreed with that right from the early primaries. When I heard about it, I disagreed with it. At the same time, the Democrats are radical because the 9 months is just a ridiculous situation. So I'll be voting no for that reason.
Molly Jung-Fast is back with me. Molly, this was quite a couple of days, 24 hours. I mean, the most important story here, which I said and you often remind us of, is that women in Florida will continue to suffer if this ban is upheld. And in far too many states across the country, they're already suffering under restrictive abortion laws. But I wanted to ask you as a political matter, the 180 here from Trump seems shameless, even by Trump's standards, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you have a really good point, and I think it's important to just lay this out. The women are suffering. None of this would have happened had Trump not installed 3 anti-choice justices. And he said before he had appointed them that he was going to appoint them because they would overturn Roe v. Wade. So we are in this mess because of Trump, which I think is an important data point. And we have women waiting to bleed out, was bleeding out in parking lots because their doctors told them that they can't have an abortion because they have a heartbeat, even though this pregnancy is not viable, right? We're seeing even women with ectopic pregnancies that, these are pregnancies that will never, ever result in a living child. They are sent away from hospitals, refuse treatment. So we got to this mess because of Donald Trump. But I think that it's important to realize that the larger premise here is that Donald Trump doesn't really believe in anything and will say and he's at the point now in this campaign where he is willing to say anything to get elected.
Anything to get elected, but he's also willing to be manipulated by people who wanted him to name justices who are going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Let me ask you, I mean, it's clear to your point, he's making a bet here, I think, a political bet, that his conservative base is basically telling him what to do. They got mad, he responded, he did this statement. It's not aligned with the majority of the American public, which just seems it's once again, like he does with legal issues, that he's calculating his base is going to win him the election. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, he sort of painted himself into a corner. But remember, Trump is never good at growing the electorate, and he hasn't been good at growing the electorate since 2016. You know, he had a chance when remember that speech he gave when he was elected. That first speech, could have been "I will be president for everyone," and instead it was like this scary thing that George W. Bush was like, that was some weird. So I do think that, the man has never been interested in growing the electorate. He always just appeals to the base. And this base really cares about this issue. In fact, remember, we would not have gotten here if this base hadn't gone from overturning Roe v. Wade to this idea of embryonic personhood, right? Which is why we're now seeing IVF. We saw, a temporary IVF ban in Alabama, and we're going to see more of that because this base has moved even further to the right after the repeal of Roe v. Wade. So you see, Trump has really painted himself into a corner with abortion, and he cannot make the base happy and still have a popular view on abortion.
Perfectly stated. I mean, on the other side of the presidential run here, I mean, Kamala Harris said after this in response to his statements, he's not done yet, that if he gets back into office, the plan is to ban abortion nationwide with or without Congress. And this is interesting because I think, as you said, it's unclear if he has any moral compass here on a lot of things, but including this issue. But I think the strategy from the Harris campaign is to continue to paint him, given this statement and others, as the most conservative on this issue. Do you think that's the right way to go, or should it be more flip-flopper painting?
No, I think that's right. And look, we saw with the Supreme Court took 2 abortion cases this season, even though it was running up to an election and you could tell they had some anxiety about it. And during the oral arguments, you heard Thomas and Alito talk about the Comstock Act and using it to ban the mailing of abortion pills. And that is the way that they're going to ban abortion federally. And so I think we see the groundwork. I mean, just like, the Supreme Court this season really did lay the groundwork for Trump to sort of do whatever he wants if he gets into office. And you heard them talking about it in the oral arguments. So I think Harris is right. And I think it happens to have it happens to be true. Not only is it politically correct, politically useful for her, but it's also really, I think, very much where they are.
Yeah, no question he's going to continue to be pressured by the same group of people who are pressuring him now. Molly Jong-Fast, I always love hearing what's in your head and how you think about these issues. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And coming up, J.D. Vance is caught going after childless teachers in another resurfaced clip. And he even called out my next guest by name. Randi Weingarten, the head of the American Federation of Teachers, is standing by, and she joins me next.
With Flonase, allergies don't have to be scary. Spray Flonase Sensimist daily for non-drowsy, long-lasting relief in a scent-free fine mist. Psst, psst. Flonase, all good.
Our biggest challenge? Uncertainty. Hidden fees, surcharges, who knows what to expect.
Turn shipping to your advantage.
Keep it simple with clear upfront pricing.
With USPS Ground Advantage.
With fatigue and lightheadedness, I knew something was wrong. Then I saw my doctor and found out I have AFib. And that means there's about a 5 times greater risk of stroke. Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if you have AFib, the risk of stroke is always there. If you have one or more symptoms, get checked out. Making that appointment can help you get ahead of stroke risk. This is no time to wait.
Can you hear it?
Summer is coming to an end, but tailgating season has just begun, and Blackstone knew you deserved a better way of cooking, kicking off bigger adventures and better backyard celebrations with an endless variety of your favorite foods. For every breakfast, lunch, and dinner you create, cook anything, anytime, anywhere. Go to your nearest Blackstone retailer or blackstoneproducts.com now and make everything better on a Blackstone.
It's time. Yes, the time has come for a fresh approach to dog food. Every day, more dog people are deciding it's time to quit the kibble and feed their dogs fresh food from the farmer's dog. Made by vets and delivered right to your door, precisely portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come.
You know, if you were cash back and you could earn on everything with just one card, Chase Freedom Unlimited. So if you're off the racking or crab cracking, you're cash backing. Cash back on flapjacks, baby backs, or tacos at the Taco Shack.
Nah, I'm working on my six-pack.
Switch to a King Suite.
Or book a silent retreat.
Silent retreat? Oh, hold up. Yeah, I can't talk right now. I'm at a silent retreat. Cash back on everything you buy with Chase Freedom Unlimited with no annual fee. How do you cash back? Chase, make more of what's yours.
We all know what it's like to worry, to not know where our dog is gone. Say goodbye to that with Tractive. Follow every step and find your dog in no time. Set virtual fences, monitor their activity, sleep, and get health alerts all in one easy-to-use app with unlimited range and support in over 150 countries. Tractive, the GPS tracker trusted by pet parents worldwide. Save 30% for a limited time.
At Public Rec, we're on a mission to make comfort look good. It starts with our best-selling pants, the Daymakers. A first-of-its-kind technical pant that's more comfortable than jeans and more stylish than sweats. The secret is in the sizing. With Public Rec, you can choose your waist and length to guarantee a perfect fit. So you can be comfortable and feel confident always. The Daymakers by Public Rec.
Sometimes Jonah wrestles with falling asleep, so he takes ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, and wakes up feeling like himself. Get the rest to be your best with non-habit-forming ZzzQuil. Better days start with ZzzQuil nights.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading? Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud. Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers. Visit legacybox.com today and get 50% off.
Hardly a week seems to go by that we don't learn something new about J.D. Vance's weird obsession with childless women. I mean, he's disparaged them as cat ladies. He suggests that they're sociopaths. He claims they have no stake in this country at all and says they shouldn't even have equal voting rights. And if that wasn't insulting enough, another recently uncovered audio clip from 2021 has now revealed that J.D. Vance thinks about teachers who don't have kids of their own. In it, he singled out Randy Weingarten, the president of the largest teachers union in the country. Take a listen.
So many of the leaders of the left, and I hate to be so personal about this, but they're people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. And that really disorients me and it really disturbs me. Randy Weingarten, who's the head of the most powerful teachers union in the country, she doesn't have a single child. If she wants to brainwash and destroy the minds of children, she should have some of her own and leave ours the hell alone.
For the record, any parent who has kids who started school this week, like I did, knows that teachers are national treasures, whether they have kids or not. Doesn't matter. For what it's worth, Randy Weingarten is also a stepmother of 2. And joining me now is Randy Weingarten, president of the American Federation of Teachers. It's great to see you. So this is a pretty strange litmus test, I will have to say. And it strikes me, this is what I kept thinking about, is that maybe he hasn't met any of his kids' teachers. I really don't know. But do you think J.D. Vance has given any thought to what actually makes teachers good at the jobs?
No. I mean, it's, you know, I've been thinking about it all week, Jen, because it was strange when he said it then. But the fact that he doubled down on it this week is even stranger because he's running for vice president of the United States of America. And we have 50 million kids in the United States, and they are our future. And whether you go to public school or parochial school or private school, this is the moment that parents and teachers and kids are all bonding together. Like, it's that moment of engagement. It's that moment of teachers trying to create safe and welcoming environments. I mean, you know this with your own kids. We all have, we all have the jitters. We are all like both anxious and excited about the school year. So it was just a bizarre thing for him to double down on it now, because every parent and every teacher and every kid in August and September are thinking about the new year and what it means and that engagement. So he must really be disconnected from life. And the only other thing I would say is this. I don't care about myself. I'm used to this. I'm a big girl. But what I care about is we really need to create these kind of environments of engagement for kids. And this is the kind of bullying and divisiveness that I think Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are saying. We got to turn the page, and we got to actually look at what the promise of America is and our future, and have some joy and hope and togetherness in terms of going ahead in our future.
It's such a good point. I mean, I think of my kids' teachers as part of the team. We're all on the team together, right? We're raising the next generation together. That's the vibes we're going for here. So let me ask you on a more positive note, to your point. I mean, according to the Harris campaign, the most common occupation among their grassroots donors are teachers and nurses, which I thought was so interesting. Of course, Tim Walz was a teacher himself. Maybe that's part of it. Positive vibes, maybe that's part of it. What do you think is spurring that?
Well, look, first off, we are the second largest. We're now the second largest K-12 union. We're the largest higher ed union, and we're the second largest nurse union. So I get to represent, I have the best job in life. I get to represent all these folks who make a difference in the lives of others. But I think what you're seeing is that these are caring professions. They're also disproportionately female professions. And they're also professions where, they have been, political piñatas. Nurses before COVID, and now teachers, in some ways, after COVID. They've been, and so they see people who are really trying to help us not only have the dignity of work, but really do the jobs we want to do, which is make a difference in the lives of kids and the lives of patients.
Obviously, J.D. Vance has some strong opinions about people who don't have kids. We've talked about that. I just want to take a look at some of his greatest hits, and then we'll talk about it.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
We think babies are good. And we think babies are good because we're not sociopaths.
Part of the problem of American decline is people who believe that not having kids is like a lifestyle brand.
You go on Twitter, and almost always the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
When you go to the polls in this country as a parent, you should have more power. You should have more of an ability to speak your voice in our democratic republic than people who don't have kids.
I mean, I find all of that pretty invasive and weird, but how do you think voters, you've been at this a long time, how do you think voters are going to take that all in come November?
So let me just say this. There's a lot of people who don't have kids that really wanted kids. And so when they say that, it's pretty painful. And, that's a whole nother conversation that you and I could have for hours. But kids, this is what I think is so kind of not just weird, but kind of really sad and gross about what he's doing. Kids are our future. All of us should have responsibility for the next generation. That should be all of our responsibility. So when he's trying to divide parents versus teachers, or, you know, people who have kids versus not, it's that part of that division and that chaos and that anger that Trump has done for the last 8 years, and that, I'm going to say it again, that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are saying, let's turn the page. Let's get to the America that we want to have, the America that even Ronald Reagan talked about in terms of the beacon on the hill. Let's actually think about our best days in front of us, and that means helping our kids and all of us having responsibility for our kids, our parents, our neighbors, our communities.
Sounds good to me. Brandy Weingarten, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And coming up,
happy Labor Day.
And happy Labor Day. You may have seen my next guest on the stage at the DNC last week, hammering home the importance of working class voters this November. John Russell, one of the breakout stars from the convention, is standing by, and he joins me next.
I own a lot of businesses, so I wear a lot of hats. My restaurants, my tattoo shop, and I also have a nonprofit. But no matter what business I'm in, my network and my tech need to keep up. Thank you, Verizon Business.
Now our businesses get fast and reliable internet from the same network that powers our phones. All with the security features we need.
Because my businesses are my life.
Man, the fish tacos are blowing up.
So whatever's next, we're cooking with fire.
Let's make it happen!
Switch to the partner businesses rely on.
We all need fiber for our digestive health, but less than 10% of us get enough each day. Good thing Metamucil gummies are an easy way to get prebiotic plant-based fiber with the same amount of fiber as 2 cups of broccoli. Metamucil gummies, the easy way to get your daily fiber.
Lawmakers are trying to shut down Planned Parenthood. The health care of more than 2 million people is at stake.
Our right to basic reproductive health care is being stolen from us. Planned Parenthood believes everyone deserves health care. It's a human right. Future generations are beginning to lose the rights we fought for. The rights for ourselves, our kids, and our grandkids. Gone, just like that.
I can't believe this is the world we live in, where we're losing the freedom to control our own bodies.
Last year, politicians in 47 states introduced bills that would block people from getting the sexual and reproductive care they need. Where does it end? Planned Parenthood fights for you every day, but we need your support now more than ever. Visit this website, call, or scan the code on your screen with your $19 monthly gift. Help us win the fight for the constitutional right to control our own bodies.
Truly, if Planned Parenthood had not stepped in, I would not be here today. They saved my life.
Your support is urgent. Our rights and the rights of future generations are at risk, and lives are at risk.
And that's why we have to keep fighting in every state, everywhere.
Donate $19 a month or whatever you can afford, and you'll help us fight against laws that block care and take away our rights.
We fight to make sure everyone and anyone can get the care they need.
But we need your help, and there's never been a more urgent time to join. So go online, call, or scan this code now. Sign up with your monthly gift today, and we'll send you this Care No Matter What t-shirt.
It is your right to have safe health care. That's it.
We won't give up, and we won't back down.
We need you now more than ever. Go online, call, or scan right now.
The fact that St. Jude take care of all this is what's keeping my baby girl alive.
It's everything for us. We wouldn't know what to do if we couldn't afford for our little girl to survive, and St. Jude gives us that.
MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, Saturday, September 7th in Brooklyn, New York. Join your favorite MSNBC hosts at our premier live audience event. Visit msnbc.com/democracy2024 to buy your tickets today.
One of the things I like about what I get to do is that each day is pretty unique. I might find out that there's not a lot of new numbers in the world today, and so today's going to be a day I'm going to spend researching. The only way to really be prepared is to get it all in my brain ahead of time.
Now, Trump, a billionaire, says that he'll take on the elites, but then he promises handouts to big oil, and he punches down at anyone with the guts to be different. But populism that insists we are too different to get along, is just divide and conquer by a different name.
That was John Russell, one of the breakout stars at this year's Democratic convention. And now, if you're on TikTok, you've probably known about him for a while, whether it's his interviews with labor leaders like UAW President Shawn Fain or educating people about CEO pay. John has been making waves as an activist and content creator for years. And Americans on social media love him, not just because he's a self-described dirtbag journalist, that's his description, or a seasoned dive bartender, but because he speaks to the party's base where they are. And ahead of this Labor Day, I thought he would be the perfect person to talk to. And John Russell joins me now. It's great to meet you. I loved watching you at the convention. You did a great job.
Well, hey, Jen, thanks for having me on. I'm just glad that I didn't have anything in my teeth or drink water furiously like Marco Rubio did that one time. So we successfully avoided that.
That's really bringing us all back. So I want to ask you, I mean, I toured the DNC's first of its kind creator platform. You, of course, were one of the convention's first official creators. What was it like to be included in that? And what's been the response since you returned home?
Well, it's pretty crazy, as you can imagine. It's one thing to make videos on the internet. It's another to walk out to, 20,000 plus people in the place where the Chicago Bulls play. But, I came there. Unfortunately, we've been dealing with J.D. Vance in Appalachia for a long time, and Donald Trump made him everybody else's problem. But I wanted to represent the region well and bring the stories that we know to that stage and to challenge political leaders to live up to some of the problems that we have here that are extended across the country.
So to your point, you have been following, if people don't follow you on social media, they should. Let me start there. But you've been following J.D. Vance's career for a long time. And I want to just play what happened at a union event he addressed this week, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
President Trump and I are proud to be the most pro-worker Republican ticket in history. And I want to talk about why we're fighting for working people, why we're going to fight for unions and non-union alike.
So that was quite a response there. If people could hear it, was booing. What do you make of, you're so familiar, you educate people out there on workers' rights, what people are fighting for, what they're not. What do you make of J.D. Vance trying to convince firefighters that he and Trump are pro-worker?
Well, you saw the response from firefighters. I mean, J.D. Vance doesn't pass the smell test for a lot of people, That's not to take away from any of his experience, with the problems that we have in Appalachia and him growing up here, however briefly, in the actual place. But, there's a certain response that you get when you leave the place that you grew up in, and you go make a bunch of fancy friends, and all of the people you surround yourself now are part of the class, the ruling class, tech overlords and CEOs and a bunch of rich guys that J.D. Vance rubs elbows with. He's really palling around with them now, and I think he's trying to have it both ways, and people know that that's just more of the fake populism that we see on offer from Donald Trump. I tried to talk about that in the speech last Thursday, that we're being offered this fake version of populism where Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are trying to get us to point fingers across the table at each other rather than pointing up at the biggest corporations run by the richest people on earth who are making life hard for the working class. So I think that all came together when he walked out there in front of firefighters. They know whose side he's on. And that's the question, in front of us all today. Which side are you on?
No question about it. We don't have that much time left. I could talk to you for a long time, but I do want to ask you, you're so good at breaking down issues. How would you advise Kamala Harris to pitch her record to union voters?
Well, I would say that working class people want somebody that stands with them. We are in a time when unions are at record popularity. And, in the biggest voting bloc, millennials and Gen Z, we have exciting new leaders who are saying this is all different races, all different places. Working people are standing up and fighting for themselves. They're looking for a party, a political home, who's going to stand unequivocally with them. that is really the challenge I wanted to bring to the Democrats, and I tried to tie that back to Appalachia. We're a place where the largest labor uprising ever in the United States happened in the coal fields 100 years ago. It was black and white miners who tied red bandanas around their neck as they fought and died for their labor rights. So we want a political home for that, and that's my challenge to the party to live up to.
It's a good challenge for people to try to live up to. John Russell, thank you so much for joining me. Happy Labor Day. Coming up, the Paralympic Games kicked off in Paris this week, and I had the privilege of sitting down with two Team USA stars, Oksana Masters and Mackenzie Cohn, ahead of their big events. We'll show you that coming up next.
Tamara, Izzy, and Emma. They respond to emails with phone calls. And they don't circle back. They're already there. They wear business sneakers and pad their keyboards with something that makes their clickety-clacking clickety-clackier. But no one loves logistics as much as they do. You need Tamara, Izzy, and Emma. They need a retirement plan. Work with Principal so we can help you with a retirement and benefits plan that's right for your team. Let our expertise round out yours.
Whether you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s and beyond, I know you're seeing changes in the skin on your body. Don't panic. It's never too late to transform yourself and your skin. And Crepe Erase is here to do just that.
Crepe Erase has been delivering smoother, firmer, younger-looking skin for almost a decade.
Did you know that Crepe Erase is America's #1 selling anti-aging body treatment system for dry, crepey skin? That's because it works, people.
The Crepe Erase two-step system is clinically shown to reduce crepey-looking skin the very first time you use it.
I just love my skin. I didn't love it before. I love it now.
And now there's big news. We're introducing the Skin Revitalizing Tool, specially designed to amplify the power of Crepe Erase.
This is the Skin Revitalizing Tool. It is new and it is free. Yes, you heard me right. It's free when you get the products.
Crepe Erase is already an incredible deal at only $49.95. But when you order today, we'll send you the Skin Revitalizing Tool, a $129 value free.
I mean, it's like having a spa in your hand.
And you'll also receive our luxurious neck repair treatment, a $49 value, free.
Since using Crepe Erase, the skin on my neck looks airbrushed. I love it.
These two incredible bonuses are valued together at $178, but they're our free gift to you.
Crepe Erase is something I recommend to my patients because it works.
Don't wait. Get all this, a $247 value for only $49.95, plus free shipping.
If you're not reveling in your younger-looking, soft and sexy skin, just return the bottles, even if they're used up and empty, and we'll give you your money back.
This is a limited time offer that will not last. Scan the QR code, call, or go to crepeerase.com and order right now.
If you know luxury, it's not just award-winning, it's rewarding. Saatva Mattresses supports all types of sleepers with durable steel coils and plush organic cotton. Luxury is handcrafted in American factories and brought directly to you with our free in-home white glove delivery service, which is why over 90% of customers would recommend Saatva to friends and family. Saatva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom, like Evan, who lost 50 pounds.
I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. Even through the pickiness, Noom taught me that building better habits builds a healthier lifestyle.
Get started today and lose 15 pounds in 15 weeks.
A wide leaf filter? It's well designed, efficient. I appreciate that.
Leaf Filter's technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good. Guaranteed.
What more could you ask for?
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
Stay up to date on the biggest issues of the day with the MSNBC Daily newsletter. Sign up for MSNBC Daily at msnbc.com. Understand more with MSNBC.
Okay, this week marked the start of the Paralympics in Paris. And just prior to the start of this year's games, I got the chance to speak with two incredible Paralympians from Team USA. 4-time gold medal Paralympian swimmer Mackenzie Cohn and prolific Paralympian Oksana Masters, who has won medals in multiple events in both the Winter and Summer Games, and who this week was part of the torch relay to kick off this year's Paralympic Games. Here's my conversation with Mackenzie and Oksana. Mackenzie and Oksana, thank you so much for taking the time. You're both very busy, so I appreciate you making the time for me. And Mackenzie, I want to start with you. I was a mediocre college swimmer. I think it's safe to say you are not a mediocre swimmer. You are an elite athlete. You've been swimming, though, practically your entire life. And you began aquatherapy when you were just 4 years old, and now you're a multiple gold-winning Olympian. You have some medals here. We just have to pause on this because this is very cool.
Yes.
Which is so amazing. And so you've now won multiple Olympic medals. You know, when people hear that, they think maybe you just came out of the womb and you just were an Olympic swimmer. You're an Olympic swimmer.
Yeah, I know, right?
Tell me. What was your journey like? You started at 4 in aquatherapy. What happened from there?
Yes. Well, I certainly wish I came out of the womb right at it. But my journey was a really long one to get here. I was born with a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, and I was diagnosed with it officially at 19 days old. And my parents were told only of all the things I would never do. I would never sit, talk, walk, stand. I wouldn't even hold my head up, let alone if I lived to see the rest of my life. And so my parents, I was really, really blessed with them. They said that is not going to be our daughter's life, and we are going to do everything we possibly can to live a happy and full life. So we went from there to my first physical therapy appointment. 4 years later, they said, let's get her an aquatherapy. And it kind of took on a life of its own, really.
Did you know that you loved swimming immediately?
Oh, yes. I took to the water and I immediately felt at home, which was something that I never truly felt on land. It's like I was meant to be in the water. The water was a safe place for me. I was free to move around. I didn't have to worry about breaking bones the way that I did on land. And to this day, that same feeling I got when I got in the water for the first time, I still get when I dive in.
Oksana, you compete. You've won medals in multiple events. I mean, reading about you and the number of sports you compete, rowing, cross-country skiing, and road cycling, and the biathlon. That's a lot. You also have an incredible personal story of how you got here. And I don't think you would have necessarily pictured, or your parent as a little kid, that this is where you would be. So tell me a little bit about that.
So I came to America when I was almost 8. So I was born in Ukraine, and I lived in multiple different orphanages before I was adopted. And the last orphanage is the one that I really remember knowing that I didn't even know I was disabled. I just knew no one loved me, and I didn't have a mom, and I didn't have a family. And it wasn't until I got to America where I really learned, oh, I'm different, I'm disabled, and that's a bad thing. I had, and you know, my mom adopted me, and I say that there's 3 things that saved my life. She adopted me from Ukraine when she saved my life when she adopted me because I was considered failure to thrive. I was almost 8, but was 36 inches tall and weighed 38 pounds, which is a healthy 3-year-old. And kind of like for you too, like you were given a very low life expectancy. And so they told my mom, like, well, she's not expected to live much past 10 years old. There's not a lot of life for her. And she saved my life that way. Sport for me was the other thing that really saved my life when she opened that door for me, but kind of like water, not in the water, because I'm not like, I don't know how you guys swim. I love the water, but on top of the water, and rowing was level
swimmer.
Oh my gosh, girl, I don't know. If you made it to collegiate, it's there. But like, yeah, and it was just the same thing when I got into sports and on that rowing boat and pushed away, leaving that time, one prosthetic leg, I felt like I finally belonged somewhere. I grew up my whole entire life not knowing where I belonged, knowing I was rejected and not wanted in this world by my own family at that. It felt like home, and finally was the path to gaining confidence and strength and seeing what was possible.
You are both deeply competitive people. I've heard this, I see this. I mean, there are definitely, Mackenzie, highs and lows in sports, right? You have some Paralympic medals there.
I do.
You probably have not won every race you've ever swum.
No.
So how do you navigate loss and disappointment?
I've dealt with a condition that is very unpredictable. Osteogenesis imperfecta causes fragile bones that often break for little to no reason.
Better clean with less? It's got to be Tide.
T-Mobile's 5G network connects 100,000 Delta employees so they can make every customer feel like they've arrived before they've left the ground. This is how business goes further with T-Mobile for Business.
Kate made progress with her mental health, but her medication caused unintentional movements in her face, hands, and feet called tardive dyskinesia, or TD. So her doctor prescribed Austedo XR, a once-daily extended-release TD treatment for adults. Austedo XR significantly reduced Kate's TD movements. Some people saw a response as early as 2 weeks. With Austedo XR, Kate can stay on her mental health meds.
Oh, hi, buddy. Austedo XR can cause depression, suicidal thoughts, or actions in patients with Huntington's disease. Pay close attention to and call your doctor if you become depressed, have sudden changes in mood, or have suicidal thoughts. Don't take if you have liver problems, are taking reserpine, tetrabenazine, or valbenazine. Austedo XR may cause irregular or fast heartbeat or abnormal movements. Seek help for fever, stiff muscles, problems thinking, or sweating. Common side effects include inflammation of the nose and throat, insomnia, and sleepiness.
Ask your doctor for Austedo XR.
Your best defense against erosion and cavities is strong enamel. Nothing beats it. I recommend Pronamel Active Shield because it actively shields the enamel to defend against erosion and cavities. I think that this product is a game changer for my patients.
Try Pronamel mouthwash.
Progressive makes it easy to save with a quick commercial auto quote online. So you can get back to your monster to-do list.
Really?
Get a quote at progressivecommercial.com. Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to make it easier to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Qualify for treatment today at orhealth.com.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's extra strength, high absorption magnesium helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Get this thing off of me! You still haven't broken up with bad bras and gone to honeylove.com? Take your current torture device of a bra. It in no way fits your body, and the underwire stabs me constantly. Not anymore, thanks to Honeylove. Wow, there's no spillage and no gap. And there's no underwire. Don't take it from me. Look at all these 5-star reviews. Women everywhere are breaking up with bad bras.
Shop the Labor Day sale. Offer ends September 2nd.
Flamingo Dermaplane Razor. It's the perfect tool specifically to remove women's facial hair.
It's great to sort of even my skin out before I apply product or makeup. I get a lot more moisture from my products from dermaplaning.
Feels like a professional tool, but it's not as intimidating. Your hair won't grow back thicker. It was like designed for me.
Flamingo, my skincare in mind.
Available at shopflamingo.com/face.
Very good day to all of you from MSNBC World Headquarters here in New York. Welcome everyone to Alex Witt Reports. We begin with breaking news right now. Thousands are protesting across Israel to express outrage over 6 Hamas hostages killed in Gaza overnight. Israelis, including hostage families, accusing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of torpedoing a ceasefire deal that might have saved them. And we're getting new details by the minute. Israel says Hamas killed all 6 in a tunnel shortly before Israeli forces were able to reach them. Their bodies were recovered and brought back to Israeli territory. Among the dead are Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Polin. The other 5 hostages were identified as Carmel Gat, Eden Yerushalim, Alexander Lobanov, Almog Sarusi, and Master Sergeant Ori Danino. President Biden has issued a statement calling their deaths tragic and reprehensible and vowing to make Hamas pay. We'll have more from the White House in just a moment for you. Meantime, we have several reporters ready to go over all these new developments. Up first, we go to NBC's Matt Bradley joining us from Tel Aviv. Matt, welcome. I know you're at that big protest. What's happening?
Yeah, Alex, I hope you can hear me. It is deafeningly loud here. There are what looks like hundreds of thousands of